Before the courtrooms and prison cells, Jimmy Lai was a self-made billionaire and one of Hong Kong's most outspoken champions for democracy. His journey is one of resilience, risk, and relentless pursuit of freedom, making him both a controversial and inspiring figure in modern Chinese history. Arriving as a penniless stowaway from mainland China at age 12, Lai started with nothing but hope and determination. He worked long hours in a Hong Kong textile factory, learning the ropes of business from the ground up. Through grit and ambition, he eventually founded Giordano, a clothing chain that became a household name across Asia. But it was his next venture, the Apple Daily newspaper, that truly defined his legacy, and ultimately led to his imprisonment. Lai saw the media as a powerful tool to challenge authority and inform the public. Launched in 1995, Apple Daily was loud, sensational, and fiercely critical of the Chinese Communist Party. Its bold headlines and investigative reporting quickly set it apart from other newspapers in Hong Kong. For many, it became a symbol of Hong Kong's freedoms and a voice for those fearing the loss of their way of life. The paper's popularity soared, especially among younger generations who craved uncensored news. Lai poured his fortune into the paper, seeing it as a mission to safeguard liberties, not just a business. He believed that a free press was essential for a free society, and he was willing to risk everything to protect it. His public defiance and support for pro-democracy protests made him a hero to many, but a prime target for Beijing. Lai's outspoken criticism of the government drew both admiration and fierce opposition. Despite escalating threats and attacks, Lai refused to flee, insisting he had a duty to fight for Hong Kong's freedoms. He remained in the city, even as the risk to his safety and livelihood grew. His steadfastness made him a leading figure in the city's struggle, and his downfall a symbol of Hong Kong's changing political landscape. Today, Jimmy Lai's story stands as a testament to the power of conviction and the high price of standing up for one's beliefs. On a somber day, Hong Kong handed Jimmy Lai its harshest sentence yet under the national security law, 20 years in prison, a verdict that reverberated throughout the city and beyond. At 78, Lai was found guilty of conspiring to collude with foreign forces and publishing seditious material through Apple Daily, the pro-democracy newspaper he founded and championed for decades. The prosecution relied not only on the sweeping new security law, but also invoked a colonial-era sedition statute, demonstrating the extraordinary lengths authorities were willing to go to secure a conviction and silence dissenting voices. 2 years of Lai's sentence will run concurrently with previous convictions, meaning he faces at least 18 more years behind bars, separated from his family, colleagues, and the city he sought to protect. If he serves the full term, he'll be 96 upon release, a de facto life sentence for a man whose only crime, supporters say, was advocating for freedom of the press and democracy. The government's zero-tolerance approach was unmistakable. Lai was painted as a principal planner of anti-government activities, not merely a publisher or businessman, but a mastermind behind unrest. The court's decision validated this narrative, cementing the national security law as the ultimate tool for suppressing dissent and sending a clear warning to others who might consider speaking out. Lai's sentencing sent a chilling message to anyone daring to challenge the established order, casting a long shadow over Hong Kong's future and the fate of its remaining independent voices. For a man nearing 79, a 20-year sentence is, in effect, a death sentence. At this advanced age, every year behind bars takes a heavy toll, both physically and mentally. The harsh environment of prison is especially unforgiving for someone of Lai's years, where even basic routines can become insurmountable challenges. Lai's family and advocates describe his imprisonment in stark terms. He is unlikely to ever walk free again. He suffers from chronic illnesses, heart problems, hypertension, diabetes, that require careful management. In prison, access to specialized care is limited, and the stress of confinement only worsens his fragile condition. His loved ones worry constantly about whether he is receiving the treatment he needs to survive. His family reports significant weight loss and a marked decline in health since his arrest. They say he has become noticeably weaker, and his ability to cope with daily life has diminished. Despite repeated pleas for leniency on medical grounds, the court refused to reduce his sentence, insisting that justice must take its course regardless of his age or health. Security officials dismissed concerns about his health as exaggerated, highlighting the gulf between the family's fears and the authorities' stance. Even with a possible one-third reduction for good behavior, Lai would be nearly 90 if released. For many, this raises troubling questions about the purpose of such a lengthy sentence for a man in his twilight years. The question remains, can his body withstand another decade or more in prison? For supporters, the court's decision is a cold calculation, condemning an elderly man to die behind bars for his beliefs. The world watches, wondering if compassion will ever outweigh punishment in Lai's case. Jimmy Lai's family reacted with profound shock and heartbreak. His son Sebastian called the sentence incredibly heartbreaking, a punishment for courage, not crime. The family's joint statement called it a dark day for justice, condemning the sentence as cruel and politically motivated. They emphasized Lai's persecution for exercising freedom of expression, a right supposedly protected by law. The family's words reflect both private grief and public advocacy, aiming to keep Lai's case in the international spotlight. His daughter Claire described the verdict as heartbreakingly cruel, focusing on the suffering inflicted on her elderly father. Their statements cut through political rhetoric, revealing the raw emotional toll. By speaking out, they refused to let the world forget Jimmy Lai. Behind the headlines, a family is left fighting for a husband, father, and grandfather they may never see again. The UK, where Lai holds citizenship, swiftly condemned the sentence. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper called for Lai's immediate release, denouncing the prosecution as politically motivated. The British government pledged to escalate diplomatic pressure on China, though past efforts have yielded little change. International rights groups echoed the outrage. Amnesty International called the sentence a cold-blooded attack on free expression. Lai's legal team labeled the trial a sham, arguing it destroyed any pretense of judicial independence in Hong Kong. Taiwan's government warned that Lai's case proves promises of freedom under one country, two systems are empty. Politicians and activists worldwide see Lai's imprisonment as a symbol of the global struggle between authoritarianism and democracy. His case has become a rallying cry for defenders of human rights. The world is watching, and many are alarmed. In stark contrast, Beijing and Hong Kong officials celebrated Lai's sentence. China's foreign ministry called him a principal planner of anti-China activities, warning other countries not to interfere. Hong Kong's chief executive John Lee described Lai's crimes as heinous, hailing the verdict as a triumph of law and order. Police and security officials echoed this, reinforcing the perception of a coordinated state action. The official narrative, a dangerous criminal has been brought to justice, making the city safer. Where the world sees a persecuted champion of free speech, authorities see a traitor colluding with foreign powers. This deep ideological divide now defines Hong Kong's relationship with both China and the West. From the outset, Lai's trial was criticized for failing to meet international standards of fairness. The government bypassed a jury, citing security risks, and appointed 3 hand-picked judges. Lai was denied his chosen UK barrister Timothy Owen after authorities intervened. Critics argue these moves stripped away key safeguards, turning the trial into political theater. Former legislator Ted Hui called the verdict a textbook political verdict, pointing to the lack of jury and denial of counsel. International legal experts and rights groups labeled the proceedings a sham trial. The process itself has deeply damaged Hong Kong's once-respected legal system. Lai wasn't the only target. 6 senior Apple Daily colleagues were also sentenced to 6 to 10 years in prison. The court found them active participants in a plot to use the newspaper to advocate for foreign sanctions and incite hatred. 3 executives testified against Lai in exchange for reduced sentences, raising questions about coerced testimony. The jailing of Apple Daily's leadership decapitated the organization, ensuring it could never return. The 2021 police raid and closure of Apple Daily marked the end of an era for press freedom in Hong Kong. The prosecution of its staff has had a chilling effect, leading to widespread self-censorship. The fall of Apple Daily was not just a business closure, it was the silencing of a critical voice. Jimmy Lai's 20-year sentence is a watershed moment for Hong Kong. It symbolizes the collapse of freedoms that once defined the city. The jailing of its most prominent media owner sends a clear message: dissent will not be tolerated. The case has created a chilling effect, forcing media and activists into self-censorship. The trial's flaws have damaged trust in Hong Kong's legal system and its status as a global financial hub. For many, Lai's sentence marks the end of an era, the triumph of authoritarianism over the city's pluralistic values. The promise of one country, two systems, now rings hollow. The silencing of Jimmy Lai is the silencing of Hong Kong's aspirations for freedom.